Section 1E, using decimals for large numbers. So now that we've dealt with decimals and we've dealt with rounding, pulling these things together, we actually find that we can abbreviate large numbers by using decimals. So what do I mean by abbreviating a number? Let's look at something like 86 billion. 86 billion, nothing million, nothing thousand, nothing ones, right? So that's 86 billion. Well, that's a large number. Well, because there's nothing else there, we can easily abbreviate that number and just say 86 billion. It's kind of like mixing standard form and words, right? Rather than writing it out fully in standard form or writing out fully in words, we just say, take the 86 and then put billion. And it abbreviates it. So that's a valid way to abbreviate a number like that. We could go the other way and say 11 million. So if we have 11 million, that's 11, comma, 0, 0, 0, comma, 0, 0, 0. Right? So we have 11 million. So we could go either way with that. But what does that have to do with decimals? Well, if we're dealing with decimals, we can go and do this on a few more types of numbers that we couldn't otherwise. 4.3 billion. So if you have 4.3 billion, we look at that and go, well, what does that mean? Well, the whole part is 4, right? So that's 4 billion. And then that 3 goes on the other side of the comma. So now we have 4.3 billion, but that's 4 billion, which means that's 300 million. No thousands, no ones. So that's 4.3 billion. Notice how we can just start from this and then, well, we've got a whole billion, 4 whole billions, and 3 partial billions, right? 0.3, so 3/10 of a billion, so 4.3 billion. Now you may use this either direction. You may start with something and go, gee, I've got 6,700, and you may say, well, that's 6.7 thousand. You can abbreviate that way and say, to the nearest thousand. Sometimes we say that's 6,700, in fact, right? You've heard that, 6,700. Well, we can say that's 6.7 thousand. And if you look at YouTube and see how many views have they had or how many subscribers when you're dealing with people who don't have as many subscribers or don't have as many views, you'll see things like 2.1K. That K stands for 1,000. So 2.1 thousand or 2,100 views or subscribers. That's what's happening there. Or you'll see they'll do the millions too, right? 1.7 million subscribers. So that's 1,700,000. So this is a way that we can take large numbers and simplify them down to a more abbreviated form, making it easier for us to convey that information. If we were to look at the national deficit, which is huge, they never tell you the exact amount of the national deficit. One, it's constantly changing and increasing. Two, it's just such a huge number that putting all the numbers in would be ridiculous. So at some point, the national deficit was $7.82 trillion. 7.82 trillion. if we wanted to put that in standard form, that's 7,820,000,000,000, no millions, no thousands, no ones. So 7,820,000,000,000 from 7.82 trillion. But see how much we save in writing this out? All those zeros there, which we just go $7.82 trillion. So that's why we sometimes use decimals to describe larger numbers. We round, we convert to a decimal, and then use a larger place value so that we can write it simpler. $7.82 trillion as opposed to 7,820,000,000,000 with a lot of zeros after it. So that's using decimals for large numbers.